Now, that leads me to a sport that we do care about forever, but not necessarily as much in the state anymore. And that moves me to my in the state topic. And I want to talk about the state of the Indiana Pacers after their draft. Now, the Pacers didn't make the trade that I predicted. They didn't trade for a point guard. And Epe Udoh, who I thought would have been the pick to make, did not fall. However, I'm going to look back on this now in a different way. Now, the Pacers wouldn't be title contenders anytime soon, regardless of what move they would have made. Especially with this whole Bosh LeBron rumor, they wouldn't even be a Central Division champion type team. So, what they did do, though, is they addressed their biggest need. And you say, Adam, they didn't get a point guard. They didn't get an athletic big. No, they didn't get either one of those things. Let me put this into perspective, though. We in Indiana love the Colts. We love Peyton Manning. We love the rest of the team. The Colts are big. What do the Colts do in the draft every year? They draft the best player available. Last year they got Donald Brown. We had a die and we were all like, why would we do that? Then Donald Brown shows up and he's awesome. This year we've got Jerry Hughes coming in. I expect him to be awesome. But we have Dwight Freeney and we have Robert Mathis. So why get him? Because that's drafting the best player available. This is the strategy the Pacers used this year, and it is a great one. The Pacers announced that they drafted Paul George from Fresno State, and I was just hoping when they made that selection that they wouldn't trade this guy. But why would I be so mad if they traded Paul George? I'll tell you why. Go on YouTube, look up Paul George, and you tell me that you don't think that this kid is going to be any good. Listen, I know no one knows about him. It's because he played at Fresno State, let's be realistic. But guys like me, who take 3 weeks of time to analyze mock drafts, to look at these prospects who are going to be making an impact in the league possibly, know who this kid is, and a lot of us, a lot of people who follow NBA basketball closely and who have watched any film about this guy think that this guy has talent. One NBA GM who was kept anonymous in the Yahoo article written about George said that he thinks that George will be the best player to come out of this draft if he puts it all together. Yes, he said the best player in this draft, completely putting him above John Wall, Evan Turner, and Derek Favors, and Boogie Cousins, DeMarcus as he's known to other people. But Boogie's his nickname for people who follow Kentucky basketball. Yes, Paul George could be that good. He could end up being the next Kevin Durant or Tracy McGrady. His upside is insane. I mean, this guy makes dunking look like Joe Buck makes talking. It's just that easy for him. Now his handles need some work. He has to learn how to be more effective when passing the ball. But if he gets those skills down, this guy will be an all-star. Guaranteed. The other Pacers draft pick, who they took in the second round, is another guy who I can pretty much guarantee somewhere down the road could be an NBA all-star. And that is Born Ready, a.k.a. Lance Stevenson. Now, for those of you who haven't heard of Lance Stevenson, you probably don't follow college recruiting too closely, but this guy was just on the same level as John Wall, Favors, all those other freshmen last year who came in. He was a blue chip recruit, and he fell to Cincinnati because of some attitude issues, some problems in school. And as much as I like the Paul George pick, I really believe that Lance Stevenson will be the steal of this draft. And I might even go as far as saying he might be the steal of the past 5 drafts. I think Lance could be that good. Now, the first thing I want to look at when it comes to drafting Lance in the second round is the incredible high reward, low risk factor that the Pacers have here. If Lance Stevenson stinks, you cut him. You don't even pay him a contract, because when you're looking at second round picks in the NBA, they're non-guaranteed contracts. So drafting Lance Stevenson in the second round, if he can put his talent together, which I believe he will, I think the guy could end up being the next Tyreke Evans. And Tyreke was a top 5 pick in last year's NBA draft. I think if Lance would have not have been so naive in high school and put a better group of people around him, he would have been a lot higher pick in this draft. He wouldn't have had so many red flags. The talent is there. This guy gets to the rim effortlessly. He just can bully people to the basket and get 2 points like he's a power forward. His defensive skills are already there. He's a great one-on-one defensive player. He's a guy that you could put into your starting lineup and be your best defensive player already. That's why his nickname is Born Ready. The guy is NBA ready at this point. He just has to work on a jump shot a little bit, but his handles are insane. And his knock at Cincinnati was a tad selfish, but seriously, look at who he was playing with. Wouldn't you be selfish playing with those guys? Cincinnati didn't have a great team last year, and even Lance's coach at Cincy, Mick Cronin, agreed by saying that Lance was their best player and they didn't have a good supporting cast around him. So Cronin even agreed that Lance wasn't selfish like people criticized him for it. And Cronin has even gone on the record saying that the Pacers did their homework properly. He thinks that Lance Game will transfer to the NBA. And I do as well. You know, I could keep gushing about both these guys. I think both guys will be stud players. But when it comes down to it, and I would give the Pacers an A for this draft simply from the fact that they actually went out and drafted for potential like they haven't done in the past. Last year, they made the safe pick with Tyler Hansbrough, and it kind of backfired on them because Hansbrough got hurt. Now they're swinging for the fences, and if either one of these guys ends up being good, that's great for the Pacers. But the problem is they don't have depth at positions that they still need it at. They have a point guard who thinks he's Allen Iverson and TJ Ford, and he'll never be that good. And they have Troy Murphy, who wishes he was Dirk Nowitzki every day of the year. But he's not. They don't have a good enough starting power forward or starting point guard. They need to start shopping around with what assets they have, because even when Ford, Murphy, and Mike Dunleavy fall off the book next year, no free agent is going to want to go to Indiana. However, you can trade these expiring contracts and bring in good pieces. You could maybe throw out an offer of Rush, Murphy, and Ford to New Orleans for Emeka Okafor and Darren Collison that, gets rid of Collison from their book, gets rid of Okafor, who has a huge contract, and brings in the Pacers a good power forward and a player who I believe will be one of the best point guards in the league in 3 years. So you get your young point guard. And there is even a rumor out there right now that George Hill was offered before the draft for Brandon Rush straight up. Now, I don't know why Larry Bird didn't sign the dotted line. He likes Rush a little bit more than most people do. But now that he has all this depth at the shooting guard, small forward position, that makes Rush more tradable. So you can throw him in more deals and not have to worry about it as much. The Pacers are in a lot better shape now to make trade offers now that Rush is expendable than they were before the draft. And while I don't think that they will end up being a contending team, even when they added all this talent, they still might end up being a fairly solid playoff team if either George or Paul or both of them can put it together. And I think that they both will, and I think that the Pacers are a team that could be on the rise. Unfortunately, I don't have a whole lot else to talk about. I know that was a lot of Pacers talk, and I'm sorry about that because I know that the team's just not that good and they probably don't deserve that much attention. But honestly, I believe in a year we're going to sit here and we're going to talk about this draft, and Pacers fans will be happy with the results in the end. That's all I've got for today. Hope you guys enjoyed. I did not get struck with lightning, but I can't promise that will happen in the future because the weather this summer has been insane in Indiana. It's been a storm about every other day. But follow me on Twitter so you guys can get as much of me as you want. It's Shear Sport Cuts on Twitter. Again, I'm going to put that in the video so you can see that. Give me a follow on there. Keep listening. Thanks for your time, guys, and I hope you have a good one.